Welcome to Rise Above the Ranks. I'm James Harris. This is David Parnes. This is in conjunction with our newsletter, readtheblueprint.com. A bi-weekly newsletter to keep you up to date on the world of residential real estate. And as you now know, each week we do a dive deep into one topic of real estate that we think will help elevate your game. And this week's topic is another very important one, which is how to handle price reductions.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Which I know every agent is so scared to have that conversation with their seller. They think their seller's going to hate them, fire them, think that they're full of shit, not good at their jobs, which we've all been through, we've all experienced. But if you set yourself up for success from day one, then your seller really has no reason to doubt you or the reason that you're asking for a price reduction, right?
100%.
So take us right from the beginning. When you go for the listing, obviously the price conversation comes up, right? Mm-hmm. How do you set yourself up for success right out of the gate?
So there's two steps to this, right? And it's not about wanting to price reduce. It's about wanting to end up at the right price that's going to serve your seller the best, right?
Yep.
There's an optimal listing price and there's a high listing price. The high listing price may end up netting you less money as a seller because you keep reducing it, right? And it sits on the market for longer than the optimal selling price, which will end up getting the seller the best result.
Yep.
Okay, so basically, when you're in that listing meeting, we've touched on this before, right? You will want to use the off-market period of the listing to gauge pricing. So you can say, look, we can try for $3 million. Let's get some agents in. Let's get some buyers. Let's shop it off market. There'll be no pricing history on the MLS. And let's see what people think. If they say it's just ridiculously grossly overpriced and it's crickets, then we know not to go live at that price.
Yep.
That's phase one. You can take phase two away.
I think there's so many different factors to pricing a property. Things never go perfectly. Things never go the way that we'd hoped. But it's all about how you set yourself up for success, right? Every seller is so different in terms of the realistic versus the unrealistic sellers. We've done in the past what we call a broker pricing opinion, right? So your seller's now committed, they're giving you the listing. However, you've left the meeting and you haven't decided on price. Something we've said to sellers in the past on how to price it out of the gate is let's get 10 of the top agents into the house. Let's have them look around. We'll set up a jar. They'll put their name and their price into it. Or sorry, not their name, just the price into it. And now we have 10 different opinions of what each of these top agents think on price. So what you're now doing is you're trying to get to the price that makes most sense so that out of the gate, you price the property correctly.
Very important.
Having said that, things don't always go the way that we'd hoped, right?
A seller can turn around and say, no, I want to go out of this number.
Totally.
Okay, as long as it's not outrageous and you let them know, you pre-warn them, so to speak, that this is not what we've been told based on the data, we go out at that number.
Yep.
Crickets. Doesn't sell. Next conversation with that seller.
Yep. I think it's all about, again, what have you said in the first meeting? If the seller will always hang on to whatever you say, especially when it's with regard to price. If you've lied to your seller because you wanted to buy the listing, which a lot of agents do, and they tell their seller what they want to hear, it's only going to come back and bite you in the ass. If you've said to your seller, hey, look, we're going to try it at this price. Having said that, if we don't have it sold or we don't have an offer in the first 2 to 3 weeks, we're going to set a time on this date to sit down and talk price. Now you've already set yourself up for the price reduction. Now, if the property isn't sold, the seller's almost expecting that phone call, but you've now shown them the marketing you've done. You've shown them that you've asked the bigger number. You've shown them that you've taken the house out to social media. You've done your e-blasts. You've included it in your newsletter, etc. Now you actually have grounds to go and ask for a price reduction.
You have to check every single box.
Correct.
So that the seller has nowhere to go as far as blaming you. And actually, just back to your point, we have our marketing timeline. We know, I think at this point, that we check every single box and we do everything necessary. If the property does not sell one of our listings, I guarantee a seller that it is not because of us.
100%.
As long as you can have that confidence and know that you have done everything possible to sell that property, right? And it doesn't sell, where else is there to go?
Definitely,
It is
Dave.
down to price.
And I think communication is so key in this
Oh my
business.
God, so important.
Right? Your seller wants to hear from you every single step of the way. They want to hear that you've got agents from your office in. They want to hear about the showings. They want the feedback. They want to have everything. And then at the point that you sit down and talk about the price reduction, they can't tell you, well, you haven't done this and you haven't done that. By the time you're going into that meeting to ask for that price reduction, you're now providing reason. You've researched the competition. You've done your due diligence. You've checked all the boxes. You've crossed the T's. You've dotted the I's. Now the seller really hasn't got anywhere to go because you've done your job, which is what every single agent should be doing.
Make sure you do your job, because if you have not done your job properly and dotted every I and crossed every T, and you go and tell your seller that you want a price reduction, you're going to get fired.
Correct. So,
And quite rightly so.
bottom line, when you go into that meeting for the reduction, be prepared to show the seller absolutely everything that you've done for them.
Done.
They're going to want to see. They're going to want to know. So now the seller gives you that price reduction. Okay, now, look, you may only get one reduction before you lose the listing. The clock is ticking. You've got a reduction. Now, how do you next go back out and remarket that property to get it sold?
It's a great point, actually. And it's actually a great thing, because upon that price reduction, it's your time to shine.
Yep.
Right? You can e-blast. It's news. It's an announcement.
Yep.
Before that, since the initial launch, there was no real announcement. Now you have an excuse to e-blast, to put mailers out, to call people up. We smile and dial. We'll roll up our sleeves. We'll call up other agents.
Yep.
We'll call up buyers that we're working with. We will get the word out there. It's almost like you're relaunching the listing.
Yep.
And that is so important.
One piece of advice, and I agree 100%, instead of labeling it a price reduction, change the word to price improvement. We've done it and we get a much better response rather than looking at it as a reduced property or a second-hand property. Make a negative in your world into a positive. It's a price improvement. It's exciting. It's new. It's fresh. And like you said, Dave, the e-blast, the social media, the newsletter, the door knocking, the calling of agents, texting neighbors, utilize the softwares that you have out there to really get it in front of absolutely everybody. You want to have your presence on social media. There's so many other marketing platforms that can get the word out, but you've got to phrase it as a positive, not a negative.
And you're not here to beat up your seller.
Correct.
This is really important. The only time you're going to ask for a price reduction and do everything you can to promote that price reduction is if you know for a fact that it is not priced correctly. This is not an opportunistic way to basically make a quick commission at the expense of your seller. This is not what it is.
That's right.
It's only if you know in your heart of hearts, and that's why it goes back to doing everything you can, checking every single box, and knowing that the only reason it hasn't sold is because of the price. That's when you go for the price reduction.
Couldn't agree with you more. And I do think as agents, we are in a changing market right now. Interest rates are going up. Debt is becoming a lot more expensive. Sellers don't want to accept the fact that potentially the value of their property has come down. Again, if you educate yourself on the comps and the cost of debt, and you explain it to your seller that this is why the house isn't selling and here's X, Y, and Z reasons, they're going to understand. They're going to listen. Never forget that you are the master at your craft. You are the expert, not them. If you come to them with real data, real reasons, you've researched the competition, and you've done everything that you should, there truly is no reason that that seller shouldn't agree to a price reduction. And if they don't, well, maybe they're not a real seller at that point, and then you have to question the listing altogether.
Completely.
That brings us to the end of this episode, which obviously is discussing price reductions. As we always do, we move to questions. Okay, lots of questions that have come in. Some really good ones here. We got one from Michael out of Ohio. Glad you guys made a video for these podcasts. Great to see the energy. Thank you so much, Michael. Are you guys going to be on TV again? Will you guys be doing more with the blueprint?
Great question.
I would say wait and see. We're always working on something very, very exciting with regard to TV, with regard to the blueprint. We are doing things all day, every day with the blueprint, and it is blowing up and exploding. So yes, there will be more TV and more blueprint.
Amen.
Next question from Tiffany out of Michigan. This is a good question. Do you guys watch Selling Sunset, or will you watch other Netflix reality shows?
I love reality TV, and yes, I've watched Selling Sunset, and yes, we know Jason Oppenheim, so watch this space because he may be a guest on our show in the coming weeks. And he's a great guy. I think the production value of that show is phenomenal, right? And I know that Jason and Brett, they do a ton of business, and I have a lot of respect for them. And I like a bit of drama, bit of real estate. Who doesn't?
Absolutely. Listen, Selling Sunset's become a worldwide phenomenon, and it's super exciting, and we wish them nothing but success and the best. And now we've got Buying Beverly Hills, which we're really excited about, based around the agency, Mauricio, his daughters, big agents at our company. And yeah, I think, look, real estate is a super hot topic. Everybody loves sexy real estate and everybody loves drama, which is why subscription TV is now covering it. And I think whilst it's successful and exciting, absolutely we'll be there to watch and support, especially our peers. But great question. We also have another question from Ted Rose out in Alabama. Dear James and David, I'm a beginner real estate agent from the Netherlands. I'm a huge fan. I have 2 questions, if that's okay. Of course it is. Question A, how do you separate business and pleasure between you two as a business partnership? So that's a good question. How do we separate business and pleasure in a business partnership?
I see. Okay, got it. Yeah. I think when we work, and we're doing our own thing for the most part. We divide and conquer, and we do deals. Come the weekend or the odd dinner, I mean, we're flying to Mexico together with our families. That is relaxation. Well, we'll never relax properly, but that is like pleasure. That is absolutely
family
a vacation.
Time, family time.
It's family time. And that's not to say we won't get interrupted, because we are always checking our emails. We're always answering the phone call. We've always got a pipeline of deals going on. But, you know, there is a very definitive difference between mainly during the week and the weekends, and during the week when we're working, and during the week if we're on vacation. So that's really, it's where we are at that time that really defines it.
The key, and I agree with you, is you enjoy pleasure whilst doing business, right? Then it's a win-win. And the second part of that question is, do you have any advice on how to manage work and personal life as a beginner agent?
Yeah, I was gonna say, simple answer is no.
No, balance is extremely important.
We have any balance? Okay.
We don't. We're always learning, but it is an important key to success. Otherwise, you will eventually burn out.
It's a nice thought.
It's a lovely thought, but we're probably not the right people.
Yeah, we're not. Definitely not.
Okay, that brings us to the end of this segment. We appreciate the questions. We hope you've enjoyed the topic. Thank you for listening to Rise Above the Ranks, the sister publication to readtheblueprint.com. As we tell each week, go ahead and email us your questions. We'll do our best to get back to you at hello@readtheblueprint.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining, and we will see you soon.